Good evening, everybody. So, I've hit an impasse for the night. It is like 10:45, a little bit later. I'm done for the night. I'm tired. It's late. My son's got school in the morning. But, I wanted to give you an update because I showed y'all the framework that I had going on. Sorry, I just had my folding bed decide to try and fall on me. Anyways, I was saying I had my my framework ready to go, but I kind of changed a little bit just due to necessity. So when I tried it with just the L-shaped boards, I could not get the top to sit level in the truck because there was just too much weight on the outer side of that L. Even with some extra support boards and things like that. I tried a couple of things and I was just like, I don't really like it. So I came up with a different idea. I figured instead of trying to add more weight, add more boards, add more metal, add more support, yada yada yada, why not just use the truck's frame in my favor? So was to cut around the wheel well and do an inner wall per se for the side. That way the truck itself is actually part of the structure of my storage. So as you can see, I've got about 11 inches worth of freaking area in width, which I can create all kinds of freaking shelving space for, whether it's drawers or whether I just do a fold top and just have an open case, right? Like a chest type of thing. On the inside here, I've got the rail for my folding bed. And then, as you can see, this side is solid because it's meant to be a solid wall. On the outside, though, you can see where I've cut at the angle right here, coming up and around to about here is where the wheel well is. I decided to cut straight across and then cut this little divot out here for the latches that are for my rear seats. That way they could still latch properly and there's no real headache there. But also, I left that little top piece on there because I'm turning that into a speaker box for the 6x9s that would normally be in the wall of the sheet metal in that exact same spot. So instead of having the speakers point in toward each other, now they're going to point up towards the ceiling right behind the seats. So I think it'll actually help the sound quality quite a bit just because of the acoustics of the truck. But being able to actually have an isolated box built in will also help the sound quality. So I don't got to pump my music up as much just to hear it. But it also gives me a lot of structural integrity in my well boxes for the actual bed itself. Pretty cut and dry. It isn't much to look at right now, but this is roughly 96 inches, 95, 96 inches worth of length. Split at 51 inches to hinge. That way I can still put the car seats in my Suburban. Because being able to take my kids with me is super important. You know, the thing about overlanding, the thing about off-roading, the thing about any of these hobbies that we enjoy is you can only enjoy them yourself for so long before you actually want to share that joy with somebody else. And in my case, I love sharing this stuff with my kids. For those of you that are following my Instagram, you saw today that I had my middle child out here with me most of the day. He was helping me kind of keep the shop tidy. He was dinking around with a nail board that I made for him. And even so much as helping me to mark some of my measurements before I did my cuts. Again, super important to be teaching our youngins so that when they grow up, they can actually handle themselves in the real world. Because we all know the schooling systems are great; they perform the way that they're meant to, but let's be honest, they don't do much for real life. So, I take the time, I ensure that I'm trying to teach my kids what they're interested in. I don't force them to sit out here and learn. But what they're interested in, I make sure and teach them so that they can carry that on later on in life. Whether they use it for a career, whether they use it as a hobby, or whether they just have it as general knowledge, it doesn't really matter to me, as long as they know it. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to what I always tell people. If you ain't learning, you ain't living. Because you have to learn. You cannot sit stagnant. Otherwise, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with yourself? What are you doing for your family? Right? So, I appreciate y'all following along. I'm seeing the channel grow, and it's making me very, very nervous, but also very happy, because something I'm saying or something that I'm doing is jiving with y'all. And that's important to me. And if I can share some of my experience and some of my ideas, and it helps you guys achieve your goals and work through some of these projects and try to problem solve on your own, then that's a win in my book. That's a win in my book. So, I'm going to leave you with learn. Take the time to learn. Because if you ain't learning, you ain't living. Love y'all. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.